If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Welcome everyone to Podcast 69 South, where we cuss and discuss true crime, cold cases, current events, and hot topics, along with our state of society today. This is your trigger warning. Our podcast content is produced for adult listeners 18 years of age and older. We discuss situations that may be offensive and triggering to some listeners. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome back, everybody, to 69 South. I'm Chop, your host, and with me always is my beautiful co-host, Julie. How are you doing today?
Amazing.
We're going to get into part 2 of the Richard Allen appeal, and it's pretty interesting. Now, we're going to get back to the child predators and stuff, but we just wanted to inform you of what was going on with the Richard Allen appeal, because to us, it's very interesting, and we hope you enjoy it too. So without further delay, we're going to get right back into it.
On April 5th, Allen's emotions shifted rapidly. He questioned whether he was God. He slipped a sheet under the door, wanting to confess to the warden. Later, Allen told Dr. Walla, "I killed Abby and Libby. I'm sorry." He had intense eye contact, bizarre smiling, and circumstantial thought. Although he would go off on a tangent and sometimes never return to the original topic, Dr. Walla claimed his confession was concise. Allen said he was motivated by sex, but was uncertain whether he had sex with the girls. Allen also confessed to molesting his sister and daughter, claims contradicted by them. 2 days later, Allen asked Dr. Walla if he had confessed. On May 2nd, Allen was very tangential, repeating himself and jumping between topics. He said, "I killed Abby and Libby. I will kill everyone. I will wipe out the whole world after I die." He mentioned World War III, was confusing nightmares and reality, thought he must have schizophrenia, was randomly saying methamphetamine, and telling people, including Dr. Walla, he loved them. The day before, Dr. Walla was unable to have a meaningful conversation with him. On May 3rd, he confessed to following the girls to the bridge when the bullet fell out, and then he said, "down the hill." He was going to rape them but saw a van. He crossed the creek, slit their throats, and covered their bodies with tree branches. He also said he feared missing Easter, thought his interactions with Dr. Walla were fake, and was paranoid about his safety. After entering a summary into Allen's record, Dr. Walla destroyed her notes. On May 10th, with Dr. Walla present, Allen told his wife, "I did this. I killed Abby and Libby," while also insisting he was losing his mind. He continued believing he was dead, that the world would blow up if he fell asleep, that the water was poisoned, and that he was reliving the same day. Dr. Walla listened to podcasts about Allen 3 hours a day while commuting to work. Before Allen was arrested, she researched a suspect on Indiana DOC's database, and after she treated Allen, she posted on social media about his case.
Now, beginning October 17th, 2024, the state tried Allen on 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of felony murder. During the 25-day trial, the state built its case against Allen on 7 points. We're going to go over these 7 points that they built their case on, and this is what the jury heard. Number 1, the bridge guy. The jury saw the video of Bridge Guy on Libby's phone. They also heard from two of the four girls, Blair and Carball, after seeing the video. The witnesses believe they saw Bridge Guy on February 13th. Blair thought she saw him on the platform of the bridge. She described the man as white, possibly in his 20s or 30s, with brown, poofy hair and youthful or boyish appearance. She also believed she saw Abby and Libby approaching the bridge while the man was still on it. Blair's Fitbit data placed her near the bridge at the time of Libby's video, although Carball in 2017 reported seeing a muddy man in a tan coat about 4 p.m. walking west on 300 North towards town. By trial, she claimed the man was muddy and bloody and wearing a blue jacket. Also, surveillance video captured a car like Allen's driving down 300 North at 1:27 p.m. The prosecutor agreed that this was Allen shortly before he parked and walked to the trail, and that Carball saw Allen walking back to his car after committing the murders. At trial, no eyewitnesses identified Allen as Bridge Guy. Prosecutor, however, told the jury that Allen must be Bridge Guy because every witness is adamant the person they saw was Bridge Guy. There's no doubt in their mind, the prosecutor said, and Blair, according to the prosecutor, must have seen Allen right before the girls because Allen told us, quote, he went to the Monon High Bridge out to the first platform, which is exactly what Betsy Blair told you. Trooper Harshman, who had listened to Allen's jail calls, believed it was Allen's voice on the video.
The second point is the bullet. The jury heard from a battle of firearms experts over the bullet. For the state, Oberg testified that when she matched test firing from Allen's gun to the unspent casings at the murder scene, she applied the Association of Firearm and Tool Mark Examiners methodology. She gave an error rate for the methodology of 2.2% for false positives and 2.87% for false negatives. She discussed studies and articles that she reviewed to apply the methodology. Oberg admitted that the AFTE methodology is subjective, but she testified that in 17 years of applying it, she was unaware of ever making a mistake in identification. During closing, the prosecutor told the jury that she has never been wrong. For the defense, Eric Warren, an expert in applying the AFTE methodology, testified that comparing tool markings on an unspent cartridge with tool marks on a spent test firings is akin to comparing apples to oranges. And in his opinion, there was insufficient agreement on the tool marks to match Allen's gun with the unspent casing found at the murder scene.
Now, bullet point 3 is the timeline that the jury heard. Christopher Cecil testified regarding the movement and health data on Libby's phone. The girls encountered Bridge Guy at 2:13 p.m., and Libby's phone stopped registering movement at 2:32 p.m. He summarized the movement data as follows. 1:31 p.m. to 2:08 p.m., 1,682 steps were walked. 2:08 p.m. to 2:18 p.m., 414 meters were walked. 2:25 p.m. to 2:32 p.m., 2 flights climbed, and final movement is recorded. Now, the state argued that this activity overlapped with Allen being on the trails and Allen completing the murders and leaving the scene by 3:56, where he was seen by Carball walking on 300 North. Allen contested this timeline through Stacey Eldridge, a former FBI forensic analyst. She testified that someone inserted wired headphones or an auxiliary cable into Libby's phone at 5:45 p.m. and removed it at 10:32 p.m. This would silence the phone, and she noted that an incoming call occurred moments before the headphones or aux cable were plugged into the phone, which would have silenced the call. In response to Eldridge's testimony, the state asked Cecil whether water damage could be responsible for Eldridge's findings. Over a hearsay objection, Cecil testified that he, quote, Googled it during the trial and found some unspecified, non-peer-reviewed troubleshooting forums reporting that water damage or dirt within the headphone socket could mimic headphones being inserted.
The fourth point was confessed motive. When the state arrested Allen, it had no explanation for the murders. However, the state argued that once placed in solitary, Allen confessed to the crime and a motive. While gravely disabled, Allen confessed to guards, Dr. Walla, and his family. On May 3rd, 2023, he told Dr. Walla he was going to rape these girls, but panicked and killed them. He said they were screaming. The prosecutor argued that the jury should believe Allen's confessions despite his psychosis. Relying on the opinions of Dr. Walla, the guards, and Trooper Harshman, who reviewed Allen's video and calls, the prosecutor claimed that Allen's confessions were logical and organized and the product of free will and his newly found religion. Almost every guard testified Allen's bizarre behavior was orchestrated and not the product of mental illness. One guard said he knew Allen was truthful in his confession because of the look in his eye. Some guards claimed inmates commonly smear or eat feces as a tool for attention. None are mental health professionals or knew Allen's mental health code. Each time Allen confessed to Dr. Walla, she said he was not delusional, hallucinating, or psychotic. Although Allen expressed confusion and memory gaps, she suspected he was feigning or acting bizarrely. On cross, she admitted she may have been wrong and Allen might have been genuine. With hindsight, she was on the fence about it. The state introduced 31 suicide observation reports containing Dr. Walla's opinions. She continued to find Allen non-psychotic while documenting paranoia, delusional thoughts, confusion about being dead, and self-injury. She at times labeled him as feigning for secondary gain. The day before he was deemed gravely disabled, she wrote he could be exaggerating or consciously deteriorating. When he ate feces, she called the behavior unclear.
Dr. Martin believed Allen was psychotic, but in remission after a mid-April Haldol shot and back to baseline by May 2nd. Like Dr. Walla, he described psychotic symptoms, yet concluded Allen was, quote, much improved. When either doctor acknowledged psychosis, they attributed to factors other than solitary confinement. Regarding Allen's phone call confessions, Trooper Harshman said Allen's demeanor was calm and solemn, and he was not, quote, under duress or stress. He opined Allen acted this way for attention. Allen called Dr. Westcott, a neuropsychologist, who opined Allen entered Indiana Department of Corrections with MDD and physical and mental decompensation, showing early signs by December and March, becoming psychotic April-June with residual symptoms later. Allen's solitary confinement, sleep loss, and starvation produced sensory deprivation, delirium, or psychosis. Dr. Westcott believed Allen was psychotic or delirious when confessing to Dr. Walla. After reviewing all records and videos and evaluating Allen for days, she found no evidence of malingering. Dr. Coercion, a psychiatrist experienced with solitary confinement cases, testified that such environments cause psychotic delirium, confusion, and disorientation. Delirious behavior often becomes a grotesque, regressive, including smearing feces, sexually acting out, self-harm, and suicide. On recovery, memory is often absent. He had, quote, no doubt Allen was delirious and saw signs of a false memory, common in delirium, where a belief evolves into a perceived recollection. Some people will say, I think I did it, and after time start perceptualizing the event. The more someone tries to remember, the more concrete and distorted the memory becomes, like a game of telephone.
Now, number 5 is the state is saying this is a detail only the killer would know. So, Brad Weber, who lives near where the girls were found, told the jury he left work in Lafayette around 2:02 p.m. and drove his white cargo van directly home, arriving around 2:22 to 2:27. The state claimed that Allen confessed to Dr. Walla that he attempted to rape the girls but was scared after seeing a van, which forced him to flee with the girls across the creek. Allen's statement, the state told the jury, contained a detail only the killer would know. The state argued Weber's arrival home in his van was what interrupted Allen, causing him to take Libby and Abby across Deer Creek to kill them.
Bullet point number 6 is the actual murder scene. The murder scene was unusual and complex. Libby was naked and Abby was wearing Libby's clothes. Abby's right leg was positioned underneath her left. Both girls' throats were cut with a sharp instrument. However, the injuries were different. Libby had so many incised wounds along her neck that it was difficult to determine the number. 3 major vessels were injured. There was a scalloped edge along the incision. Abby's throat was cut only once and not as deeply as Libby's throat. Abby was likely murdered while wearing Libby's clothes. Abby died in the location where she was found, but after Libby died, her 200-pound body was moved several yards to its final resting place. This created a V formation with the girls' bodies.
Sticks were deliberately arranged on the girls, covering no more than 3% of their bodies. It would have taken up to 20 minutes for Abby to die. Although Libby's injuries were more significant, it would have taken her between 5 and 10 minutes to die. The blood pattern on Abby's hands was noteworthy. When injured, people instinctively reach for major wounds, getting blood on their hands and sleeves. Libby had substantial blood on her hands, but Abby had little to no blood on her hands or sleeves. The state's blood spatter expert had never seen clean hands and sleeves in a case involving this amount of blood loss. The absence of blood may be consistent with unconsciousness or restraint, but there were no defensive wounds, bruising, blunt force trauma, or ligature marks on either girl. The bodies were lying in this prone position, yet both girls' faces had blood patterns flowing upward against gravity and over their chin and face. Thus, sometime during the murders, a person articulated the girls' torsos and necks above their chins. It was clear someone lifted Libby's body to create the flow pattern. Abby had a similar pattern, which meant her body was also articulated to a position where her neck was higher than her chin. This occurred while Abby was wearing Libby's clothes. Now, about 4 feet off the ground, there was a notable blood pattern on a tree in Libby's blood.
The state performed a sexual assault kit on both girls and found no physical evidence of sexual assault. Despite testing the sexual assault kit, hundreds of clippings from the clothing and swabs of the girls' bodies, cartridge, and cell phone, law enforcement found no DNA from Allen. The state told the jury that Allen controlled the girls, swapping Abby's clothes, articulated their bodies, and moved Libby all by himself before fleeing the scene by 4 p.m. The state's witnesses repeatedly claimed Allen used the sticks as camouflage, and he moved Libby's body to make it harder to see. This, the state argued, caused blood to flow over Libby's chin, and for reasons the state could not explain, Allen dressed Abby in Libby's clothes and turned and repositioned her at the scene, causing blood to flow from her neck and over her chin. Although the girls' injuries were different and possibly caused by multiple weapons or, quote, different mechanisms altogether, the state's pathologists speculated that a single blade, such as a box cutter, caused all the injuries, including the scallop mark. The blood stain on the tree, according to the state, was an inverted L transferred from Libby's arm as she propped herself up against a tree, and a female hair and multiple incomplete profiles were seen contaminated or background DNA from the girls sharing clothes or through incidental contact with people they knew. According to the state, it could not find Allen's DNA because the blood from Abby and Libby was overwhelming the scene and, quote, competing with any DNA Allen left behind.
So our seventh point is the manner, quality, and thoroughness of the investigation. At the trial, the jury heard about the state's investigation from the day the girls went missing to a few days later when Allen met with an investigator. The state then told the jury to fast forward 5.5 years to the volunteer finding report in September of 2022. The jury heard nothing, maybe very little, regarding the manner, quality, and thoroughness of the investigation. Between the murders in February of 2017 and Allen's arrest in 2022. On November 11, 2024, following a 25-day trial, a jury found Allen guilty on 2 counts of murder. Allen appeals. Below is the evidence the defense was prohibited from offering to the jury.
Now, those were the main 7 bullet points on what the state argued their case with. Let's talk about what the jury did not hear, which really could have been detrimental to the case. Now, number 1, the bridge guy. The jury never saw the sketch that showed the younger man, which is the man Blair saw on the bridge when Abby and Libby were approaching. The sketch does not look like Allen, who in February of 2016 was short, 44 years old, with closely cropped hair. Blair rated the sketch a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. In 2019, she reaffirmed her confidence in her sketch and insisted that she could identify Bridge Guy if she saw him again. Nor did the jury hear that Blair, at one point, ISP believed the man she saw, Bridge Guy, was not the man Carball saw, bloody and muddy.
Number 2, let's go back to the bullet, and this is what the jury did not hear. The jury never heard that the firearm and tool mark evidence is flawed and unscientific. Allen proffered expert witness William Tobin to explain the scientific community's criticism of the AFTE methodology. Tobin is a nationally recognized forensic metal scientist. He has extensive experience in metal and bullet and lead analysis and tool mark principles, along with a background in statistics. He is familiar with the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which has criticized the AFTE methodology of tool mark identification. Tobin reviewed Ober's work and was prepared to explain the flaws in the AFTE methodology. He has testified in over 297 cases, and he has been recognized by state high courts as an expert on this topic.
Now, this is what the jury did not hear about Richard Allen's confessed motive. The jury never heard Allen's confused, disjointed ramblings and screams during the months that Dr. Wallace said Allen was making logical and organized confessions. The trial court permitted Allen to play 15 videos of him in solitary to impeach his confessions, but required Allen to mute them. They excluded audio showing the following. The first one was video 972. This was guards extracted a skinny, wide-eyed Allen with blood on his forehead. Allen screamed for his dad, asked guards to hold his hands, and yelled, "Roger, Marvin, wait for it." Video 980, April 13th, guards ordered Allen to cuff up. Naked and confused, he clutched the sink and shook. When officers entered, Allen begged to be put on an airplane and told them not to believe his last confession. Video 1002, April 17th, while being transported to see Dr. Walla, another inmate yelled, "Kill yourself, Richard Allen." Video 1007, April 17th, during transport for a forced injection, Allen screamed, spoke incoherently, and asked for his, quote, "mommy and daddy," rambled about suicide and time travel, and within 7 minutes claimed to be both the stupidest and smartest person ever, and repeated, "Wait for it." A guard told him the games are over and commented on feces on him. Allen responded tangentially, "Rocky Balboa is my favorite actor. Clap on, clap off." A guard noted the feces has been on him for a good period of time.
Video 1026, April 21st. During a haircut, Allen mostly stared into space. Confused, he responded, "Leave the top," when asked if he wanted his face shaved. Video 10152, April 28th. During a shower transport, Allen spoke incoherently, repeated saying, "There is a God, please don't do this," and "make it painless." With feces on his face, he asked to be euthanized and whether his wife was present. He said he was King Michael, claimed he had started World War III, tried to save his family and Donald Trump, sang hymns, quoted scripture, and asked to be cryogenically frozen. Video 1201 on June 20th, guards carried a catatonic, drooling Allen to the infirmary. The medical professional discussed with Allen his cholesterol and blood pressure rather than his non-responsiveness and involuntary jerking. Allen stared blankly when asked the date or season. Allen asked this court to watch the videos with the sound. Also, the jury did not hear Allen the morning he started confessing, telling his family in 3 intertwined calls that he was confused and losing his mind. In the first call at 3:12 a.m. on April 3rd, Allen told his dad that he was losing his mind and was uncertain of how much longer he was going to be lucid. Allen said, "You guys know I would never do something like I've been accused." Allen felt that he had been mentally tortured like he is in Guantanamo Bay and that there were drugs in his coffee and Kool-Aid. In the call the jury heard at 5:14 a.m., Allen told his wife for the first time he thinks he killed Abby and Libby and evidently did it. Allen could not remember what he told his dad in the earlier call. Then, in a third call at 8:45 a.m., a panicked Allen told his wife he was not sure if his original call to her was a dream. He said he was not drinking the water or the coffee and questioned whether the attorneys who were coming to visit him were his attorneys. The jury only heard the second call with the confessions, along with Trooper Harshman's opinion that Allen showed no indication he was under duress or stress when he made that admission.
Here's what the jury did not hear on the detail only the killer would know. The jury never heard that Allen could not have walked the girls across the creek to kill them after seeing a van driving down a lane as he confessed. The state had video showing Weber's van arriving home 25 minutes after the pause in movement of Libby's phone and nearly 15 minutes after it stopped moving altogether. Specifically, security camera footage from Weber's neighbor showed him arriving home around 2:44. And the state also had a report prepared by the FBI, which confirmed that Weber's cell phone arrived home around 2:50. The jury also never heard that Allen confessed to details that the real killer would know were wrong, including that Allen said that he shot the girls. The judge prohibited Allen's expert, Dr. Coercion, from identifying Allen's signs of being in a state of delirium and hallmarks of a false memory. One such hallmark was the facts Allen got wrong.
And now we're on to number 5, Allen's alternative and exculpatory explanation of the scene. The jury never heard that from the beginning, many investigators believed and investigated the girls' murder as a part of a Norse pagan ritual and that the usual and complex scene had textbook features of such. There was always a discussion among law enforcement that this may be a ritual murder and that the sticks were Nordic ruins. Also, many officers believed the scene was too complex for just one person to be involved. Within the first week, the Carroll County Sheriff enlisted the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit to evaluate whether the sticks related to pagan rituals. After examining the evidence, the BAU declined to exclude pagan rituals as a plausible explanation for the murder scene. It remains possible a new believer or rogue believer in Odinism was involved in this case. A Purdue professor also consulted law enforcement on whether the sticks were runically inspired. He found it quite plausible these markings constitute an instruction inspired by Norse runes or modern recreations thereof. Law enforcement consulted with an undercover ISP trooper regarding the sticks and the blood stain on the tree. The officer was familiar with Norse pagan symbols throughout his covert intelligence, and he agreed the blood on the tree resembled the pagan Fihu rune, and he found similarities between the stick formations on the girls and pagan bind ruins. Once Allen was charged with the murders, the defense team consulted a nationally recognized expert, Don Perimeter, who found 7 features of a Norse pagan ritual.
Now, those 7 features include the location. She explained that Norse pagan follow a Norse pantheon of gods like Thor and Odin. They have nature-based ideology where events and rituals are conducted outdoors, in wooded areas, and near water bodies. This murder occurred outdoors, in a clearing, and near a creek. Now, the data. Norse pagan rituals often occur on Norse holidays or events. The Nordic holiday, Valisblot, which honors Odin's son, Vali, begins at sundown on February 13th and continues until February 14th. The girls went missing near sundown on February 13th and were found the following day. Then we get to the means used. Ritual killings often involve a knife or a ceremonial knife, and here the girls were killed with a knife that made an unusual scalloped mark. Now let's talk about the sticks. Ritualistic crimes usually involve symbolism at the scene, and with Norse pagan, and the symbolism would include arranging natural objects in a specific way, like sticks and runes, and blooding the runes. These practices are integral to the magical thinking involved in Norse pagan rituals. Here, the stick arrangement showed intentional symbolism. It is difficult to explain the sticks as hiding the bodies. They're absolutely not working that way. They're not functioning that way. The stick arrangement on Abby mirrored the Norse rune Gibo, and the intentionally placed stick formation on Libby looked like a Nordic bind rune.
The manner of death. Now, in ritual sacrifices often involve blood loss and torture. The girls' throats were cut and they suffered a prolonged blood loss, which is indicative of a sacrificial offering or initiation type. The body arrangement of the girls. Now, in rituals, the sacrifice will be displayed or arranged at the scene in a manner that is significant to the group. And an upside-down hanging body is an important element of Norse paganism because Odin hung from a tree for 9 days before discovering ruins. Like Abby's positioning, the classic image of Odin depicts him with one leg bent behind the other. Next, we get to the unusual blood pattern. Finally, a ritual sacrifice would involve an atypical or symbolic blood pattern, and here the blood pattern on the F tree appeared to look like a Norse pagan Fihu rune.
Number 6 is the manner and thoroughness and quality of the investigation. The jury never heard how law enforcement bungled the investigation into the ritual killing or suspects connected to Norse paganism. ISP disregarded Brad Holder, the father of Abby's boyfriend and Holder's friend, Patrick Westfall, as promising alternative suspects because they lost evidence, mishandled interviews, and conducted a poor investigation. Next, we hear about what the jury did not hear about the investigation into the ritual killing. After examining the scene, several officers believed the scene was too complex for just one person to be involved. When the BAU evaluated the murder scene, it found it noteworthy that Abby was clothed. Allowing Abby to dress ahead of time suggests the suspect felt differently toward her, including a possible heightened level of guilt or regret, at least compared to Libby. Law enforcement explored a group of pagans connected to Abby. In the weeks leading up to the murders, Abby had been talking with a boy, LH, and meeting up with him a few times. She kept this relationship secret from her family. On the day she was murdered, Abby invited LH to meet her on the trails. He had school, so he declined. While law enforcement was searching for the girls on February 14th, they learned about LH and Abby's secret relationship, pulled the boy out of class in Logansport, and searched his phone. That moment, he texted his father, Brad Holder, quote unquote, "She's missing."
Now, this is what the jury didn't hear about lost and missing interviews. On February 17th, 2017, law enforcement interviewed both LH and Holder. By then, law enforcement already suspected the murder scene involved a pagan ritual. During his interview, Holder reported being involved in a pagan tribe and spending every weekend in Delphi engaging in pagan rituals with Westfall and 5 or 6 others, including women. These rituals involved animal sacrifice and human bloodletting. Holder admitted knowing about Abby and LH's relationship, but he denied ever meeting her. Law enforcement recorded Holder's interview, but the Delphi police recorded over their only copy before August of 2017, permanently deleting it. Only a one-page narrative remains. According to that narrative, Holder told police he owned a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, but law enforcement never collected it, nor did they collect his cell phone. On February 19th, 2017, law enforcement interviewed Westfall. They failed to record this interview. Only a 5-paragraph narrative remains for that interview. According to his narrative, Westfall knew the woods where the girls were murdered very well. He reported knowing the girls, but denied ever meeting them. He also reported being a religious leader for local pagans, and he wore a necklace to the interview representing his efforts to pledge to the Vinlanders, a pagan social club. There's no indication law enforcement asked Westfall whether he owned a .40 caliber firearm. Westfall's phone was not searched at the time.
When asked for an alibi, Westfall claimed he was home with his minor son, and Holder told the officers he was at work at the Liberty landfill. On April 13th, 2017, officers visited the landfill to investigate and spoke with an employee who provided a printout showing Holder swiped out of work at 2:45 p.m., which was 30 minutes after the Bridge Guy video. Case invited the officers to review video to confirm the printout's accuracy, but they declined, nor did they interview other employees. Unify Command marked Holder as a, quote, cleared suspect. Now, tipsters continue to identify Holder as Bridge Guy. Tipsters repeatedly called and reported Holder as a person of interest. Now, within these certain tips, there was a tip numbered 116 that Holder posts half-dead women and shows fascination with symbols out of tree branches. Tip marked 128 was check the father of one of the girls' boyfriend. His name is Brad Holder, and he fits somewhat the description. Now, each time a tip came in, law enforcement marked it, quote, cleared, nothing further, covered, or alibi confirmed. Sometime around March 2017, Detective Purdy interviewed Holder to get his assistance in connecting the murders to Norse paganism. Because Holder was not a suspect, Purdy did not record or document this interview with a report.
Our next point is Unified Command declines to re-interview Despite reports, Holder is posting pictures of young girls believed to be deceased with sticks placed over their bodies. In April of 2017, shortly before taking medical leave, Trooper Winters received a call from a tipster who shared pictures from Holder's social media. Winters found a concerning similarity between the murders and the pictures posted on Holder's social media. These pictures depicted young girls believed to be deceased with sticks placed over their bodies. Winters also noted similarity between the stick formation on Abby and a bind rune Holder tattooed or drew on his hand. Holder had said that about the hand tattoo or drawing, he said, "That's a bind rune on my hand. Basically, I took a Gibo rune and an Isa rune and I made a bind rune." Holder's social media also featured him holding guns and homemade knives. Winters immediately recommended to his superiors that law enforcement investigate Holder further, which they declined to do, claiming his alibi was cleared by the FBI. Winters was not satisfied and urged the ISP to conduct its own investigation. No further action was taken. In 2018, Holder displayed a painting he made of Odin upside down with his right leg tucked behind his left, just like Abby's legs. Holder's painting also featured a red Fihu rune. Officers continued to find other social media posting from Holder that mimicked the crime scene, but law enforcement declined to interview Holder again.
Now, once the state charged Allen, his defense team insisted that Holder and Westfall receive another look. When law enforcement re-examined Holder, he changed his story about knowing Abby. Back in 2017, he told law enforcement that he never met Abby. But in August of 2023, he told law enforcement that he met Abby one time. And during a deposition in 24, he said he met Abby twice. At least one of those encounters occurred shortly before her murder at Westfall's home. At the insistence of Allen's counsel, law enforcement finally examined Westfall's alibi on August 17th. Westfall's son, who was a minor when the murders occurred, could not remember if he was home with his dad when the girls went missing. This time, law enforcement collected Westfall's phone, but he deleted data before turning it over. On April 4th, 2024, Allen's counsel deposed Case, the Liberty Landfill HR officer. In February of 2017, Liberty Landfill was operating 2 staggered, overlapping shifts, one from 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and a second from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. On the day the girls went missing, Holder was scheduled to work from 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., but his badge swiped out during the second shift around 2:45 p.m. Holder did not have sole custody of his badge. His badge was on a public rack, outside of view of cameras, and accessible to other employees, including second shift. There was no lock on the badges, and Holder's name was prominent on his badge. If somebody left when they were supposed to, but somebody else clocked that person out an hour or so later, would that be known? No, it wouldn't. When the state moved to exclude any reference to the state's investigation into third parties, the trial court held a hearing on the motion in July of 2024. At the hearing, Holder's wife testified that in 2018, Holder told her that he had a fight with Westfall because Westfall wanted to up from animal slaughter to a different type of sacrifice. She also testified that Holder claimed that Westfall killed Abby with others and that she needed to keep her mouth shut about it. Okay, man, there is a lot to talk about in this appeal. I'm blown away about some of this shit.
Who would have thought? I can't believe that they didn't get to see this stuff before the jury at all. I would be mad if I was a juror and there was information
all
that
this
wasn't
information
laid out there.
Yeah, that was withheld. And can you believe Dr. Walla destroyed her notes after entering a summary into Allen's record? I mean, why would she destroy her notes? You would think something like that, notes that you're taking about a murder suspect that's going to be all your testimony and all your notes are going to be evidence. Why in the F
You would
would you
think it would-
destroy shit like that?
You would think that they would be video recorded for evidence because you have this trial coming up, and whatever he says, you want to get that on video and on tape. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Why wasn't it recorded? That's just odd to me.
I think he should have had Alan Jackson as a lawyer, boy, because I'm not saying that this counsel was bad or anything, but there was a lot of shit that should have been in this trial that wasn't.
Well, that's not the counsel's fault. They fought for it. It was
They did.
the judge who has made the final decision on what could go in and what didn't go in.
Right. And this doctor, she's supposed to be, so neutral going into this. I mean, to be fair, she needs to be 100% neutral. But then she spent freaking 3 hours a day while commuting to work listening to podcasts. She's probably listening to Murder Sheet and bullshit like that. You know what I mean? Dogging Richard Allen. And, none of that shit is neutral. I just don't think that this chick had any morals to what she was doing with her job. She wasn't biased. She was definitely one-sided, and she had her. I feel like she had her sights set on it. I feel like she had her mind made up, listening to the podcast and doing all this shit, destroying her notes. It's just, I'm pissed off about this part of the appeal. I
Yeah,
have to
she
say.
wasn't. What you meant to say is she wasn't unbiased.
Right,
She was
yeah,
being biased.
right.
Leaning towards one side more than the other. But even if you're a professional like that and that's how you really feel, you have to pack that shit away and bury it and go on about your job in the most professional and ethical and manner that you should.
Yeah, I have to say, Dr. Walla Walla didn't seem to be very professional in my eyes. And what about the bridge guy? Witnesses, their first.
Bridge guy was a younger dude in his 20s to 30s.
Yeah, absolutely. We all remember the first picture of Bridge Guy that they put out, and the witness said she gave that sketch a 10 out of 10. How much better can a sketch be of somebody that you saw? Them people that draw them things are badass artists. You know what I mean?
I know, but I don't think I could, personally, I don't think I could describe a person
Well, they
for
draw
somebody to draw.
Right. I've seen interviews with people drawing suspects like that, and they draw it out of you. Like they ask you questions. I mean, they say you'll close your eyes and see the person in your head. And then they also have, like, say the eyes, they'll have a booklet with, umpteen 100 or 500. I'm not sure.
Oh, like different shapes of noses and
Yes,
eyebrows
exactly.
and chins and cheek features
Right.
and eye shapes.
Exactly. So, I mean, they get it right. And for the witness to give it a 10 out of 10, I mean, come on, man. And the witnesses, all their testimony, they changed by the time of the trial. Oh, yeah, that was him. I mean, there's a big difference in a dude in his 20s. You see the difference in the pictures that they drew.
Well, nobody identified Alan at trial.
No. Well, they said it looked more like it was some bullshit, really. And what about the analyst saying that it said that a headphone jack or an auxiliary cord was plugged into Libby's phone from 5:45 to 10:32 p.m. directly right after a phone call came in. So you know how
To silence.
yeah. What's
Stick
weird is
headphones in.
yeah. Well, at trial they had an expert that said that it could have been dirt or water that manipulated it, but if it was just
But
laying
he
on
Googled that.
Right. At trial, he Googled that for sure. But the phone was just laying there. And the thing is, so we have iPhones now, and it doesn't have an auxiliary or a headphone jack. But remember the Androids when
Yeah.
they did that we used to have? Well, you plug it in, it automatically stops everything. What's weird is the supposed headphone or auxiliary cord got plugged in right after a phone call came in, and then it supposedly got unplugged like 5 hours later. So did the dirt happen to manipulate the phone directly after a phone call and then magically got unplugged?
Well, these girls, according to, I guess, the state timeline, they would have already been passed away for, a couple hours or hour or something. And it just happened out of the blue. And they weren't in water when they found them. Yeah, I understand. I think they had to cross water at one point in time to get to where they were. But at the time, they had been where their bodies were.
Right.
for approximately an hour or whatever. There was no water that could get in him there, right?
Right. I mean, it's just sitting there. I mean, the chance of a speck of dirt flying in there when a phone call come on and then it flying out 5 hours later, that just sounds like bull hockey to me. I'm just saying. What do you think about the guard, quote unquote, believing Allen's confession? He confessed to the guard. The guard said, I believed him because of the look in his eye.
Well, had lost his mind. He was nuts. I'm sure he had a crazy look in his eye. But come on, if you're a guard and you work there every day and you've seen him, let's say 5 days out of the week,
Right.
you
Well, I mean, are you a psychologist, a freaking forensic?
no, they're not.
I mean, come on, man. The look in his eye, you could probably look straight through the dude's eye and see the back of his head, which is much How-It-All and shit they had him on. Explain to folks what exactly How-It-All does to a person.
So I had to look it up because I didn't know. How-It-All often feels like sedation, drowsiness, or calmness, but it can also have significant side effects, including muscle stiffness, tremors, or uncontrolled movements like Parkinson's symptoms or tardive dyskinesia, which is dizziness, dry mouth. It could also cause constipation, blurred vision, fatigue, and then there's also serious reactions. You could have a high fever, rapid heart rate, things like that.
That's why dude was shaking
When he was in the infirmary that one day,
having tremors and shit.
I bet you it was a side effect of that medication.
Absolutely, it was. I'm sure there was a lot of side effects to that. And the doctor said, this really got me. The doctor said that Allen eating his own poop, she marked down on a paper, she wrote it down that his behavior was unclear. She couldn't tell if he was faking being crazy by eating turds. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I think anybody that would do that is crazy.
You'd have to have somewhat, I mean.
There's no way you could, if you wasn't crazy or wasn't, there's no way that if you were in your right mind, you could put your hand in a pile of that and stick it in your mouth. No way. No way.
Dude was absolutely off his rocker from the medicine they were giving him, the seclusion, and no telling, how the other inmates, that one inmate was screaming, kill yourself, kill yourself. I mean, it was just pure torture for month after month after month on this dude. I definitely think that the blood on the tree wasn't like some accidental, one of the girls leaning up against a tree, or it to me, looking at the picture, and folks, you can go look this up in this picture anywhere too. It's all over the internet, but it definitely looks like that it is wrote on there with blood by something, whether it be the killer's hands, or it looked very symbolic to me.
Absolutely, it did. And then the way that I hate to even talk about this, that Libby's throat was slit many times, many small incisions. And it took her a while to bleed out and pass away. Abby was cut once, and she died in that location. But the other body was moved, and they both had characteristics kind of like their feet were more above their head because they had that blood flow come back up over their neck and their chin. That was odd, too.
It definitely seems ritualistic to me, the way they were laying, the way the tree limbs were placed over him. The cops were saying that they thought, he was trying to hide the body. He didn't pile a bunch of shit up on these girls. If you look at
3% of their body was covered with sticks.
Yeah. I mean, you guys can have your own opinion, but if a dude like Richard Allen, he's a normal-ass dude, manager at CVS. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but so he was going to, quote-unquote, rape these girls, but got scared when he saw the white van. To me, it just seems like a bunch of bullshit. It seems so symbolistic and ritualistic in my eyes. Why would you take the time to pose the girls' bodies in a weird-ass position, put twigs over them in a weird-ass position, mark some shit on a tree with blood. To me, that doesn't sound like somebody that was in a hurry to get the fuck out of there because he saw a white van. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we get to the part where, the jury's not hearing about all this Odinism stuff and these ruins. They weren't allowed to put anything on, but it was talk of the investigators at the beginning of this investigation that, hey, things are looking kind of weird around this scene. And then you have Abby's relationship with Brad Holder's son. And Brad Holder's this big, I guess, he practices Odinism or North pagan stuff.
Right. He literally said that he was in Delphi, I think, quote me if I'm wrong, but once a week doing animal
rituals and animal sacrifice and that bloodletting.
Right. So they were killing animals and doing this sacrificing shit once a week out there. Just like child molesters, they start out with porn and then that's not good enough. Then they go to this or that and that's not good enough. And it keeps escalating because they have to keep feeding this addiction or this whatever it is that they're going through. It's just, you do something so many times and it just seems normal to you. You got to move on to the next step for the excitement or the fire of it. So they were killing animals. And what exactly is bloodletting that they said they were doing in these rituals?
Bloodletting is a ritual drawing or offering of blood from the body. It has appeared in various pagan traditions worldwide, though it was not very universal or equally prominent in every culture. So they're cutting themselves and bleeding, basically, and offering that blood as a
gift
offering
to Odin or the gods that they worship in their paganism or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'd be shaken up and pissed if I was on trial for my life and all this evidence and arrows pointing to these murders being ritualistic. Like, I would be yanking my hair out. I wonder if they had him so doped up that he really didn't know what the fuck was going on when the trial was going on like that. I mean,
They probably got him to where he looked, halfway lucid during trial.
Where he looked halfway lucid, yeah.
I know the man halfway lucid.
The Richard Allen I saw in the very first interviews was definitely not the Richard Allen that they played the little clip on the news 10 million times where he had slobber running down his face and they were walking him down the stairs. I mean, they made him look like a fucking weirdo in the news clips that they showed like that.
Also, why would they play videos while he was at the prison? Why would they play videos but not let them hear what was on those videos?
Sounds to me like they were trying to hide some audio that was on the videos that they didn't want the fucking jury to hear. It's weird how Allen and his attorneys was like, we want the audio played. Why wouldn't they do that? There's so much shit that should have been in this trial that the jury should have heard. It's unbelievable.
If you were a juror and you were sitting in trial and they started showing you these videos and you were like, okay, I want to hear what's going on so I know how to base my decision.
Right. I want to know what context these videos are in. I don't know shit or what's being said, what's the noises around him. Showing video without audio is like getting an Oreo cookie without the cream in the middle of it. It's not the same thing.
Why would they not let all of this information in?
I don't know. I thought a defense had the right to offer up, they call it something like a third party
defense.
Exactly. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not satisfied with the way this trial went. I'm not satisfied with the shit that they didn't let in. And I really hope that these attorneys wrote this appeal good enough and it goes in front of a judge and looks at it like we're looking at it, like this just wasn't a fair trial. It wasn't a fair trial. I'm all for justice for Abby and Libby, 100%. That's what I'm for. I just don't. But
it's got to be fair all the way around.
Right. I don't think justice has been done
right
for them whatsoever.
Also, now one more thing, last thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, remember back way before this even came to trial. I think it was right after Richard Allen was arrested. And there was the FBI agent in Terre Haute that got killed. That FBI agent was working on some of this Norse pagan stuff, and they were doing their investigation. But the gentleman who had murdered him, didn't he throw like a Molotov cocktail into the FBI office in Terre Haute?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I don't remember all the facts. But
he
was
walked
a
out
Norse
of the
pagan guard
right,
at one of
right.
the facilities.
I forgot about that. I think the FBI agent walked out of the Terre Haute FBI office, and all the shit went down right there. Yeah, that was like right. So that FBI agent was investigating this case.
I think he was a part of somebody who helped write the Frank's motion, maybe.
Right.
Don't quote me on it or anything like that. I'll have to double check, but the thought just came to me.
What's really crazy to me, we're gonna have to cut this short because we're already an hour into it, but how when they reinvestigated Holder and Westfall, the fact that the police and the FBI, every time they would get these tips, like they got a lot of fucking tips talking about Holder, and his alibi was that he swiped his badge. Basically, a badge is a time card. It's just like an ID thing that maybe people wear on a lanyard or something, or maybe they keep it in their pocket, or maybe clipped on their pocket. They just swipe it through. But then they found out during the investigation, after Richard Allen was charged, that these badge IDs, it clearly had Holder's name on it. And I've seen this before when I've worked some places that you have time clocks and shit. You know, if you want to leave a little bit early,
you have your buddy swipe you
have
out.
your buddy swipe you out. Hey, man, I'm going to fucking get out of here, bro. When 3 o'clock rolls around, swipe my shit for me. Or if your buddy's late, you know what I mean? You walk up to the time clock, you know your dude's coming, man, and he may be 10, 15 minutes late or something. You see his time card up there, and motherfucker may have some points, going to get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? You go ahead and clock your dude in for him. I mean, that's just, you know.
Bro code? Is that bro code?
That's bro code type shit. Yes, you do that, man. That shit happens all the time. I mean, whoever, if this happened and his badge ID was swiped a little bit after he left, which presumably that's kind of what I'm thinking, you know, maybe the person that did that didn't know what was going on. Maybe he manipulated him like, hey, bro, you know, I'm going to get out of here a little bit early, man. I got to go home and bitch at my old lady, or I got to go get my oil changed, or something. You know, I got to go get a fucking part from AutoZone before they close. I mean, you never know what he bullshitted to get. You know, I'm not saying it did happen. I'm just saying it sounds fishy.
Could have happened.
It sounds fishy to me. Just saying.
Anyway.
Man, I love getting into this shit. I'm pumped up about this appeal. Just really hope it goes through. Folks, I'm glad you listened, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did notice when you're listening to 69 South, we kind of made it a little bit bigger time than what we're doing. We got actual commercials and sponsored at the beginning of this, and probably
in the
middle we have actual freaking commercials. So we may be getting paid a couple cents every time you listen to it. So listen as much as you can. If you want to listen to 69 South and ad free, if you want to listen to Chop and Julie, run our mouths and talk about this shit ad free, like the missus said, go to
www.patreon.com/69 South.
Help us keep the lights on the studio. And to all our Patreon members, man, we really, really, really appreciate your support. It means the world to us. Our next episode, we're going to get into part three of the appeal. And then for those of you that enjoy the Predator part of 69 South, where we talk about child predators, we've got a bunch of really good PCAs to go through. So stick around for that. We'll get at you on that. But until then, have a wonderful day. Good evening. Good night. Whatever, man.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.